Hi, strangers. Hello and welcome. My name is Kayla, and this is my space to talk about all things horror. If you are new here, you must be because this is my first video. I kind of wanted to create a space somewhere where I could talk about horror books, horror movies, not horror games because I can't play those. But I was hoping to connect with other people who like this kind of stuff because nobody in my life ever wants to talk horror with me. But I thought I would start out today with a book haul. So I have the week off this week. My first week off in a year. Don't do that to yourself. I went on a day trip down to Niantic, Connecticut to the Book Barn. And let me tell you, it is a haven for anybody who likes reading. It is hundreds of thousands. They say 500,000, but I feel like that's low. Hundreds of thousands of used books. And they're only like a couple bucks a piece, as you can imagine. And they really have everything. I mean, even if you're a collector, they have like first editions, they have collector's editions, rare books. I'm not into that kind of stuff, so I don't know anything about that. But they have all that kind of stuff. What's cool about it is there's 3 different locations. The main location, you go from like these buildings outside. You go from like building to building to building. There's like these little sheds or cabins or whatever you want to call them. And usually I start there. I kind of like circle my way around the property. Here comes Clover, my cat. I circle my way around the property and I end up in the main barn. And each section has its own genre. There's like true crime. There's not really a true crime section anymore. But in the main barn, there's like young adult fiction, primarily. Like that's what I went for in there. But yeah. So anyways, I went to the book barn and I adopted 8 books. Let me show you what I found. I'm excited about all of these. The first 4 are books that I kind of expected I might find there. They're mainstream published books in true crime, science fiction, horror, thriller genres. But the last 4 books, I was very shocked to find. And all of these, honestly, except for maybe one, were on my TBR list on Goodreads. So very excited to start reading these. I hope it doesn't turn into another thing of like, I have this massive pile of books that I never get to because that happens to me sometimes. But anyways, I've been on a reading kick lately. I started, I think, in late July. I was an avid reader when I was growing up. And like most of us, I became distracted because the world is more distracting now. And I'm hopping back into reading. I have my phases. I hope this isn't a phase because I really like reading. I also write creatively. Anyways. Let me just start. Let me stop blabbing. I don't even know what to talk about. I don't know how to structure this. So the first book is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Anybody who likes true crime should probably read this, which I haven't, and I am into true crime. I've been a true crime fan probably just as long as, maybe not as long as I've been a horror fan. I like to say I've been a horror fan since I was like 5 and The Nightmare Before Christmas came out. But In Cold Blood, back to the topic at hand, In Cold Blood. So this is a book that Truman Capote wrote about an actual crime. He was a journalist. He was covering this. And so this is just an account of his coverage. So on November 15th, 1959, in the small town of Holcomb, Kansas, 4 members of the Clutter family were savagely murdered by blasts from a shotgun held a few inches from their faces. There was no apparent motive for the crime, and there were almost no clues. As Truman Capote reconstructs the murder and the investigation that led to the capture, trial, and execution of the killers, he generates both mesmerizing suspense and astonishing empathy. In Cold Blood is a work that transcends its moment, yielding poignant insights into the nature of American violence. Can't wait. This next book I found in the... Did I find that in the... Yeah, in the young adult section. It's kind of science fiction-y. I thought the premise sounded cool. I'm kind of pooped out on the idea of like the Chosen One type young adult books. You know, obviously I read Harry Potter when I was a kid. I read Hunger Games when it came out. I read one of the Divergent books and then I couldn't do the rest. But they've become very formulaic, I think, nowadays. I mean, if you have any recommendations for ones that don't follow that same Chosen One kind of formula, I'm open. But this one sounded a little bit different. So this is Unwind by Neil Shusterman. I think Shusterman? The Second Civil War was fought over reproductive rights. The chilling resolution, life is inviolable from the moment of conception until age 13. Between the ages of 13 and 18, however, parents can have their child unwound, whereby all of the child's organs are transplanted into different donors, so life doesn't technically end. Connor is too difficult for his parents to control. Risa, a ward of the state, is not talented enough to be kept alive, and Lev is a tithe, a child conceived and raised to be unwound. Together, they may have a chance to escape and to survive. I've heard that there is like an actual scene in here of someone being unwound, and it just sounds crazy to me. And we love a post-apocalyptic story. We love a story about like teenagers banding together, making it through and surviving something. This is a series, so if I like it, maybe I'll try the series. I don't know. But yeah. So next, I tried to watch this movie on Netflix a while ago and didn't make it. Not because it was a bad movie, but because it's in, I think, Dutch. And I don't like to watch dubbed movies. I like to watch them in their original language. But the problem with that is when you watch subtitled movies, you have to actually pay attention or else you're going to not know what's going on. And sometimes I have a hard time like paying attention to a movie. You know, I like end up, oh my God, I have to go take care of something in the kitchen. I have to go do this. I have to scroll through my phone right now for some reason. And I don't pay attention, but I can still kind of focus on what's happening based on the dialogue in the background. But obviously, if they're speaking a language I don't understand, I can't do that. So anyways, that was the only reason I didn't finish the movie. But the premise is really cool, so I picked up The Chestnut Man by Soren Sveistrup. Did I say that right? A psychopath is terrorizing Copenhagen. His calling card is a chestnut man, a handmade doll composed of matchsticks and 2 chestnuts, which he leaves at each bloody crime scene. Examining the dolls, forensics makes a shocking discovery: a fingerprint belonging to a young girl, a government minister's daughter who had been kidnapped and murdered a year ago. A tragic coincidence or something more twisted? To save innocent lives, a pair of detectives must put aside their differences to piece together the Chestnut Man's gruesome clues, because it's clear that the madman is on a mission that is far from over, and no one is safe. I love detective procedurals. Soren Sveistrup wrote and created The Killing, which was a series, I think it's still on Netflix. And that was that was a police procedural as well, but that was a really, really good show. And I remember really liking it when it came out. So I'm really interested to check this out and see how it is. Whew, it's hot in here, man. Listen, of course it had to be my vacation that we had a freaking heat wave over here. And I shut my air conditioner off to make this video because it's too loud if I don't. And so me and the cats are melting, so I may have to take a break. And as you can tell, I'm out of breath because I'm trying to project my voice, and I clearly didn't learn anything from being in theater about projecting my voice. So I may die making this. That would be good for a horror vlog. So this next one I've been wanting to read for a little while, but for some reason I thought it was really daunting. I don't know why I thought that this was a lot longer than it actually is. But anyways, it's Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I keep thinking his name is Barty Crouch, which I think I'm getting from Harry Potter, right? Like, isn't that the guy that David Tennant played the character. I read those books when I was literally a child. So I don't, and you know what? I'm not going to share how old I am, but I'm not a child anymore. You can probably tell. So anyways, Dark Matter. Are you happy with your life? Those are the last words Jason Desson hears before the kidnapper knocks him unconscious. Before he awakens to find himself strapped to a gurney, surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits. Before a man he's never met smiles down at him and says, "Welcome back, my friend." In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not one he knows. His wife is not his wife. His son was never born. And Jason is not an ordinary college professor, but a celebrated genius who has achieved something remarkable, something impossible. Is it this life or the other that's the dream? And even if the home he remembers is real, how will Jason make it back to the family that he loves? From the author of the best-selling Wayward Pines trilogy, Dark Matter is a mind-bending thriller about choices, paths not taken, and how far we'll go to claim the lives we dream of. So these next 4, I wanted to make this video and ask you which of you weirdos dropped your books off at the book barn right before I went there. But as it turns out, as the cashier ringing me out told me, they had recently gotten a shipment from some fringe indie publishers. And I wanted to be like, sir, don't make this weird for me, please. But actually, I mean, he was actually really nice. But, and incidentally, right when I came up to ring out my stuff, he was talking to a customer about a 1970s horror film. I think The Other, one that I had never seen, but I was like, oh, another horror fan. No, I didn't say that because don't talk to people when I'm out. Anyways, here they are. I don't know if I would call these all extreme horror books. Splatterpunk, I don't know, but definitely stuff that you're not gonna find in most mainstream bookstores. So this first one, Scanlines by Todd Kiesling, I think it is. I have put a Post-it note over the picture of the cover because it is a depiction of someone unaliving themselves. And not only do I not want to get in trouble with YouTube, but I want to be sensitive to people to whom that's a sensitive topic. I'm a mental health professional, and I realize how serious this issue is. And I don't want to trigger anyone, neither does the author. He included an author's note that I'll read in a second, but just so you know, this book contains those kind of themes. It's actually pretty focused on that as a theme. So you definitely want to skip this one and maybe even skip this description if that's something that may be upsetting to you. In 1987, Congressman Benjamin Hardy III died by unaliving himself. I feel like this is like 1984. I can't even say the flippant word or swear. On live television amidst accusations of political corruption. Years later, rumors of a recording surfaced among VHS trading groups and urban legend chat rooms. Dubbed the Duncan tape after the deceased cameraman who attempted to sell the video, the rumors allege that anyone who watches the tape is driven to... Or so the story goes. In truth, no one has ever seen the supposed Duncan tape, presumably because it doesn't exist. It's a ghost story perpetuated on forums and chat rooms of the internet, another handful of bytes scattered across the information superhighway at blistering 56K modem speeds. For Robbie and his friends, an urban legend is the last thing on their minds when a boring Friday night presents a chance to download corn. You know what I mean. But the short clip they watch turns out to be something far more graphic and disturbing. And in the coming days, they'll learn even the most outlandish urban legends possess a shred of truth. What's really appealing about this book to me is like the analog horror of it all, right? Like, and I feel like analog horror is kind of like overdone at this point, at least, casually, like by, random people on the internet. But there's a reason I think it strikes a chord with so many of us, both millennials and Gen Z. I don't mean to generalize it to generations, because anybody who has engaged with analog media, this is going to strike a chord with, right? Just the idea of picking up a videotape or even a cassette tape with no label and not knowing what's on it, and pushing it into the VCR, really not knowing what you're going to find there is pretty spooky. As well as for those of you who are around for the days of Kazaa and LimeWire and Napster. Not that I used any of those, because that would be illegal, and I don't condone that, just so you know. But there was always a gamble. Like you thought you were downloading freaking Britney Spears songs, and it turned out to be an illicit video, if you were lucky, right? It was a video of some like hardcore, and you were disturbed momentarily or like jump scared because that's not what you wanted, but you weren't like traumatized for life. And then if you were really unlucky, it was some sort of like snuff video or something like that. Not that I never had that experience, thank goodness. Because I never used those sites. So I never would have had that experience. But I'm guessing that Todd Kiesling knows all about that and lived through it. And so that's why this book is interesting to me. It looks like it's a little bit of like mixed media, not mixed media, but notes and stuff like that, as well as, I don't know, traditional prose, which I really like too. That's interesting. But I want to read the author's note that he included. This story contains and deals extensively with graphic depictions of unaliving. Regardless of who you are, where you are, or your circumstances, this is never the answer. No matter how alone or hopeless you may feel, someone is always willing to be there and to listen. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts, please do not hesitate to call the prevention hotline, 1-800-273-8255. In the United States, you can also dial 988 now, 988. It's free, private, and 24/7. You are heard, you are seen, and you matter. Above all else, you matter. I promise. I thought that was really sweet to include. And obviously very important. So, please heed that if there's anything you're struggling with. There is someone out there who wants to listen to your story and wants you to be heard. And the world needs your magic. So please stick around. That seriousness aside. This next one I picked up only because it was there. I wasn't necessarily going to read it. Like, I had heard about it and I was like, I don't know. I've heard that there are some graphic depictions of animal cruelty, which is really the only trigger warning that I need. I know I'm not alone in that, that I can watch movies with some horrible graphic violence and gore, but as soon as there's a dog on screen, I'm on doesthedogdie.com and I'm like out of there, or I'm skipping the scenes that include animal cruelty because there are literal angels on there that will tell you which, from minute to minute, what parts to totally skip. And I actually did. I can't remember what the movie was called, but it was, I think, a Swedish film about little kids that have like telepathic powers or something like that. And something happened to a cat, and I have cats, and I just can't. I can't. Anyways, True Crime by Samantha Kolesnik. Susie and her brother Lim live with their abusive mother in a town where the stars don't shine at night. Once the abuse becomes too much to handle, the two siblings embark on a sordid cross-country murder spree, beginning with their mom. As the murder tally rises, Susie's mental state spirals into irredeemable madness. One of the things I really liked about the cover is that it obviously is supposed to be like a newspaper. If you look on the back, Ketchum Plumbing, which I'm assuming is an homage to Jack Ketchum. I'm curious about the number that's on here, so call it and tell me what it is, because I'm like too scared. I don't want to do that, because like, what if someone answers? I don't want to talk to anybody. So yeah. some brand new extreme horror books. This next one I'm really excited about because I've heard that it is extreme horror with like actually good, like really, really good writing. And I was a little nervous about venturing into the extreme horror genre, not because of the content, you know, animal cruelty aside. So I was a little worried about venturing into extreme horror as a genre, not because of the content, because I can handle a lot from all of my years of watching horror movies, but because as a writer, I'm really sensitive to bad writing, and it's probably the main reason why I DNF books is if they're poorly written. I don't want to struggle through it. It takes me out of it. I get really annoyed with the author. And I don't think that we should ever have to like struggle through a book or a movie or an interview or a date where we're really not having a good time, because life is too short for that shit. But anyways, yeah. Oh, am I allowed to swear? Yes. So most of the books that I've read so far have been really good, like surprisingly good, which is great. But I heard this one kind of stands above the rest. You might be able to guess by now, but it's Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Brite. I've heard that the prose in here is really beautiful. So I'm excited about this one. To serial slayer Andrew Compton, murder is an art, the most intimate art. After feigning his own death to escape from prison, Compton makes his way to the United States with the ambition of bringing his art to new heights. Tortured by his own perverse desires, drawn to possess and destroy young boys, Compton inadvertently joins forces with Jay Byrne, a dissolute playboy who has pushed his art to limits even Compton hadn't previously imagined. Together, Compton and Byrne set their sights on an exquisite young Vietnamese-American runaway, Tron, who they deem to be the perfect victim. Swiftly moving from the grimy streets of London's Piccadilly Circus to the decadence of New Orleans' French Quarter, Poppy Z. Brite dissects the landscape of torture and invites us into the mind of a killer. Exquisite Corpse confirms Brite as a writer who defies categorization. It is a novel for those who dare trespass where the sacred and the profane become one. When I think transgressive literature, I realize transgressive means anything that pushes boundaries, but I think like well-written pieces of literature, not just like I'm writing gore to write gore. Here comes my cat Luna to mess everything. Lou, what are you doing? Don't knock that over. Here's my little troublemaker. Here she is. So anyways, I'm excited to read that. Yeah. Last but not least is The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre. I don't know if this has a summary of the book that I can read for you, but it says, my life is simple as long as I followed these rules. 1, don't leave the apartment. 2, never let anyone in. 3, don't kill anyone. I've obeyed these rules for 3 years, but rules were made to be broken. I believe this is about a sex worker who is a cam girl and also has like killing tendencies, like she almost like Dexter. She wants to kill someone, but she locks herself up in her apartment and never leaves so that she won't go out and hurt anybody. But yeah, Girl in 6E. So now I have this huge stack of 8 books to eventually get through. I'm currently finishing a book that I'm going to review in a little bit that I found randomly on godless.com, and I can't believe that like I haven't seen a review or a mention of it really anywhere because it's a really good book. And I am also getting through Tomie by Junji Ito, which I assume is going to take me a long time because it's like several hundred pages, because it's the entire collection. But once I'm done with the ebook, I'm going to start on one of these. So comment down below and let me know which one you think I should start first. So yeah, I mean, thanks for watching if you made it all the way to the end. Like I said, I have no idea if I'm going to post this or not. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm like scared to put this out there. But anyways, I mean, if you liked it, leave a like. If you have any recommendations other than the ones that I've listed today, leave it in a comment down below. If you hated any of these, tell me. Don't spoil it, but tell me that you hated it. And if you want to see some more, then subscribe and maybe we'll be friends. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.